the boy crossed into another world and obtained the Saint of Survival system. Clearly, the system gave him peak aptitude, enabling him to learn everything instantly. However, he can only break through to the next stage on the Day of Reckoning. If he dies halfway through, he won't be resurrected. The young man's name is Su Fan, who crossed over to the Feather Wing realm and joined the Heaven-Gazing sect 6 years ago. Since he obtained this strange system, he decided to keep a low profile and survive, until he became the strongest cultivator in this world. Compared to other time travelers, he still has a heart that longs to return home. In his spare time over the years, he also carved out a modern city. His path forward would be one of cautious survival, just as always. After a moment of nostalgia, he walked out of the room and drifted towards the peak of Grand Learning, one of the 3 main peaks. It was time for him to sign up for classes. He had just taken off when suddenly someone called him to come down. He turned back to see that it was his junior brother Wang Yuluan, who was a renowned outer disciple famous for killing a fiend beast at the Qi Refining 6th layer, as a Qi Refining 4 layer outer elite disciple. When Su Fan fell down, Wang Yuluan looked enviously and said, "Senior brother, your middle-level body lightning technique is amazing. When will you teach me? If you practice until high level, it will be much faster than flying with a sword." Su Fan said jokingly, looking at him. "It's simple. Just save the time spent practicing the attack and slaughter technique to practice the body lightning technique." Upon hearing this, Wang Yuluan was stunned. "Senior brother Su is joking again. If I don't cultivate the attack and slaughter technique, what should I do if I encounter a fiend beast outside?" Su Fan replied nonchalantly, "Then just don't go out." Wang Yuluan felt conflicted. Why would a senior brother with such talent have such a timid personality? Even when carrying out sect missions, he always chose the safest tasks within the sect. What others don't know is that 3 months ago, there was an accident at the Beast Taming Hall where the seal was broken, causing many partially tamed fiend beasts to escape, including 3 Qi Refining 6 layer flame wolves. They forced him into a desperate situation, just at a critical moment. Several 3 attribute combined spells appeared, and the spell Flamewind wooden arrow slew these flame wolves. It was Su Fan who happened to pass by and saved him. Wang Yuluan was particularly surprised that Su Fan could casually cast a joint spell. Since then, Wang Yuluan has been Su Fan's loyal little brother. Upon arriving at the peak of Grand Learning, Su Fan and Wang Yuluan heard fellow disciples gossiping casually. They were surprised to hear that the left guardian of the battle hall was going to give a lecture. This guardian was a powerful cultivator at the Golden Core stage. Just a casual lecture on the attack and slaughter technique would greatly benefit the disciples. But Su Fan had no interest at all. In his opinion, defensive techniques were far more important than the attack and slaughter technique. Surviving was the ultimate victory. After saying that, he walked towards another building, looking to switch to a different course. After searching for a while, he decided to study the Dan alchemy technique. He arrived at the registration office, where the child explained that there were a total of 10 classes that would be completed in 3 days, accompanied by supplementary materials called Jade Slip. A total of 50 spiritual stones are required, with only 3 spots left. Su Fan's face immediately turned ugly. He completes tasks for the sect for a year to earn less than 100 spiritual stones as a reward, and now more than half of them are gone. The disciple also explained confidently that wanting to learn Dan refining is a basic requirement. Elders at the Dan Medicine Hall do not provide detailed explanations for this kind of class. One can only study on their own with the materials provided. Su Fan's face darkened, and he obediently paid the money to register. He then walked sadly towards the classroom. The child also sighed when he saw this, another far-fetched outer disciple Dan alchemy technique, but it's stacked with spiritual stones. It's painful to part with 50 spiritual stones. This amount of spiritual stones will only buy a lesson. When Su Fan finished the lesson and came out, it was dusk. On his way back, just as he was lamenting about Dan refining burning money, Uncle Zhang from the market stopped him and asked when he would be getting the engagement gift. Su Fan's face suddenly turned embarrassed. He suddenly remembered that Uncle Zhang's daughter, Little Cloud, had promised to marry him when they grew up. Su Fan had jokingly agreed, but he didn't expect her to take it seriously. At this point, he didn't know how to deal with it. Just as he was about to slip away, a woman's voice came from behind him. It was Little Cloud coming over. She took a step and hugged Su Fan. Su Fan immediately broke out in a cold sweat. He was about to explain to Little Cloud that it was just a misunderstanding. Uncle Zhang then stood behind him and stared at him intently. A real man keeps his word. Little Cloud said that since the two of them had exchanged tokens of love, naturally they would be husband and wife for life. She even took out the token of love given by Su Fan while saying that. She said firmly, "My husband can only be you, Su Fan." Su Fan didn't know how to explain it. He could only silently shed tears of helplessness and complain about the go-safe system. The young man crossed over and gained the supreme talent bestowed by the system. He can learn any cultivation technique or auxiliary technique at once. However, he is limited to breaking through this stage only on the Great Limit Day. Just as he finished dealing with the father and daughter of the Zhang family, Su Fan returned to his own mountaintop. He then saw Wang Yuluan holding a grass spirit sheep and waiting for him outside the courtyard. Su Fan, after falling down, said, "Aren't you afraid that the enforcement team's disciples will come knocking? This is the sect's free-range spirit sheep." Wang Yuluan, who was tempted by it, said he had already reported it, with a spiritual stone as a bribe. Later, senior brother Su would have to roast it nicely. Shortly after, Su Fan formed hand seals. He lifted the restriction from the courtyard. In an instant, Wang Yuluan's eyes suddenly cleared up. The top of the yard houses Su Fan's stored illumination technique, which activates once the sun sets. Wang Yuluan also feels envious when he looks at senior brother Su. "Every time he comes to your yard, I feel like a waste." Your attack and slaughter technique, all-encompassing techniques, especially the defensive technique, are all at an entry level or above. If you didn't stop me from talking, you would be an outer. He was interrupted by Su Fan before he finished speaking. "I'm just a low-key outer disciple. Don't try to harm me." "Just kidding. I just need to live well until the end to break through. Living peacefully and low-key is all I need. Standing out is a big taboo." Later, he slaughtered a sheep, collected the blood, skinned it, and roasted the lamb. Not long after, under Su Fan's unique cooking method, the whole roasted lamb was ready. The fragrance was so enticing that it made Wang Yuluan's mouth water. He immediately pulled out a bottle of spiritual wine from his own storage bag. How can there be meat without wine? At this time, Su Fan also smiled and said, "You even have a storage bag now. It looks like you are really favored by the elder in the sect. Congratulations. And for the spiritual wine, it probably costs 10 spiritual stones, right?" Then he shifted the topic and said, "So what's the matter? Given the items you have, I'll increase the success rate for you a bit." Wang Yuluan laughed and said, "Senior brother, nothing can escape your notice. I have been taken in by that elder from the battle hall and may not frequent the sect in the future. That's why I came here to see you this time. I'm worried that the tasks to enter the battle hall are extremely dangerous. If something goes wrong, I may never see senior brother Su again." At this moment, Su Fan cursed inwardly, thinking that Wang Yuluan, the clever little guy, learned to play smart by pretending to be captured willingly. Su Fan timely interrupted the other party's nonsense. "If that's the case, I will burn incense for you." After a satisfying meal with plenty of food and drink. Just as Wang Yuluan was about to leave disappointed, a spiritual light struck towards him. He reached out and caught it, only to find 2 cultivation technique jade slips. He immediately thanked senior brother Su for the gift. Su Fan's voice also came through, reminding him, "Remember, living well is the true way to greatness." After all, he doesn't have many friends in the heaven-gazing sect. You must live well. After Wang Yuluan left, Su Fan returned to his own small courtyard and watered the spiritual farmland using the spiritual rain technique. He needs to plan the future schedule for staying at home. The outer steward has been taken care of by him, and there will be no crisis of going out for tasks in the next few years. The next step is to sell spiritual rice to learn the Dan alchemy technique and other Dan refining techniques to make money, and then learn the artifact refining technique. In this way, he will have two identities, and won't need to plan much for his status. However, this universe is indeed quite vast. There are several celestial realms mentioned in the sect's classics alone, corresponding to the Great Thousand Worlds and the 3,000 Worlds. He is currently in the Central Thousand Worlds, where there are beings at the Tribulation stage. Now the heaven-gazing sect has powerful beings at the Tribulation stage. So he has to be more cautious. It's all because of this lousy system that doesn't even provide resurrection abilities. The day of the deadline starts at least a few hundred years from now. If anything happens to him during this period, it's all over. As he spoke, Su Fan created another top-level, highly difficult joint spell. However, this innate talent is just SOSO. If it's leaked out, someone might target it. Suddenly, Su Fan realized that he could take on a disciple. A disciple doesn't have a limit-breaking restriction like a master. With so many top-level spells he created, as long as he trains his disciple well, he can rely on the disciple's protection in the future. Can't he just relax and be a layabout? He will be able to start accepting disciples once he reaches the chi refining pinnacle. At this time, the courtyard protection system alerts that high-level energy is probing the host, but it has already been shielded. One good thing about this junky system is that it can shield against various powerful probes. Then he continued to create spells. However, he failed. It seems he has to go to the scripture hall to find some ideas. At the same time, in the dense forest outside the sect, Wang Yuluan is experimenting with the spell given by Su Fan. He did not expect its power to be so great. This makes him extremely excited. The young man obviously possesses extraordinary talent and can make a name for himself. However, he set his sights on becoming the king of the survival path. He never gets involved with anything dangerous, because the saint of survival system limits him to only break through on the day of his life limit. The next day, in the dense forest outside the sect, the senior brother, who was on a mission with Wang Yuluan, came over with a snow fox in his hand. He was a little worried that the newcomer would be eaten by the fiend beast. But after seeing the piercing wound on the head of the fiend beast, and the calm demeanor of Wang Yuluan, who was as light as a cloud, this battle hall senior brother was shocked beyond belief. He was actually killed with a single blow. Are we going to have another A-tier powerhouse in Battle Hall? In Battle Hall, the evaluation grades are divided into 4 tiers: A, B, C, and D. D tier is considered unqualified. C tier is only cannon fodder in Battle Hall. B tier is trained as core members. And A tier will be cultivated by the entire sect as the future top combat power. The most crucial part is that they will be personally taught by void refining experts with the top resources and the best professors. After seeing the shocked expression of senior brother, Wang Yuluan also tried to act calm and said, "Senior brother, why are you so surprised?" But deep down, he was feeling very pleased with himself. Senior brother in the battle hall also explained, "Junior brother, your battle power is truly amazing. You have already reached the level of high B, and if you put in more effort and can single-handedly kill 10 fiend beasts of chi refining 7th layer or above, you could be rated as A tier. When junior brother enters the A tier hall later, don't forget about me, senior brother." How could I forget? I haven't even thanked senior brother for recommending me yet. Just exchange some pleasantries like this and then return to the sect. In the evening, Wang Yuluan came to taste Su Fan's craftsmanship again. Su Fan looked at the excited Wang Yuluan and said strangely, "Is it strange to defeat the 6th-layer fiend beast with one move?" In the final stage of ignition, Flame Spear will have a calming effect, hitting the target precisely. Under this effect, it would be strange not to kill with one strike. Wang Yuluan has not calmed down from excitement yet. Brother Su, why don't you join the battle hall with me? With your strength, you will definitely gain the attention of the elders in the sect. A tier hall has the guidance of a void refining expert. Su Fan naturally refused. Too much fighting and killing is not good, not to mention the high mortality rate. His status is still inferior to top-tier Dan refining masters and artifact refining masters. Besides, he has a limited lifespan, and he can only break through the restrictions of the grand stage on his last day. Even if he quickly reaches the chi refining pinnacle, he will be stuck for hundreds of years before he can break through. By then, he will be looked down upon again. Wang Yuluan looked at Su Fan with great confusion. Isn't dominating the world the dream of every man? Brother Su, I feel that with your abilities, you will definitely be able to ascend to the celestial realm and become the 39th patriarch ancestor of our heaven-gazing sect. At that time, I can serve as your disciple to accompany you at ascending to the celestial realm. In the Featherwing realm, when undergoing the celestial tribulation before ascending, the world's intent allows the presence of two cultivators not lower than nascent soul to ascend together to the celestial realm. However, Su Fan is well aware that the celestial realm is a more brutal world. There, perhaps, is a hell for immortal cultivators, he said, as he picked up a novel he had read in his past life. Wang Yuluan naively said, How could it be? That's the place where immortal cultivators dream of their whole lives. Su Fan looked at him speechlessly. That's just you. To him, even if he ascends to the celestial realm, he'll still be a lazy person. Su Fan directly shot out high-pressure wind blades from his fingertips, instantly splitting the roasted meat into two halves. This move also shocked Wang Yuluan immensely. Su Fan smiled and said, Just eat your meat honestly, don't overthink it. At this moment, Wang Yuluan, with an admiring look, gazed at Su Fan and said, Brother Su, can I please apprentice under you? Su Fan looked astonished and replied, Apprentice under me? Are you out of your mind? Didn't you say you have the opportunity to enter A-tier hall and receive personal instruction from the void refining expert? Suddenly, Wang Yuluan said seriously, Brother Su, do you know that I was born into a small immortal cultivation family? Although the highest cultivation level in my family is a golden core stage cultivator, my ancestors include a spirit separation cultivator. Although my family ultimately declined, the travelogue left by the spirit separation ancestor broadened the horizons of our entire family. Brother Su, you're right. The celestial realm is indeed a more brutal world. The area where our heaven-gazing sect is located, Featherwing Realm, is a relatively impoverished region. It's in the central continent, where the holy land of immortal cultivators lies. There are no less than 100 sects in the central continent that have great perfection cultivators. The first sect there, the Heavenly Feather Sect, is the strongest sect in the entire Featherwing realm. As Wang Yuluan explained, Su Fan became more and more confused. What is this kid trying to say? But he didn't listen in vain to the knowledge of these worlds. Wang Yuluan went on to explain that in the central continent, there is a profession called spiritual creator, which is more noble than Dan refining or artifact refining. They can make fiend beasts at the chi refining stage fight against those at the foundation establishment stage. And Brother Su, you have an innate talent for being a spiritual creator. The 2 spell jade slips you gave me must have been created by yourself. Therefore, I would like to ask you to be my master. Wang Yuluan is about to kneel and bow as a sign of reverence while speaking. Su Fan promptly stopped the other person from wanting to kowtow to him and said, You are dreaming if you think I will agree to be your teacher. You are already over 18 years old, so it's impossible to become an apprentice. However, I have a gift for spiritual creation. Now that you know. Su Fan spoke and then extended his index finger, the fingertip shimmering with a glamorous light, pointing towards Wang Yuluan's brow. Wang Yuluan was scared. Are you trying to silence me by killing me? He quickly shouted. Brother Su, you are the one I trust the most. I will never reveal the secret of your spiritual creator talent. Su Fan smiled faintly and said, I am just a low-profile outer disciple. How could I possibly commit murder? When Su Fan pointed his finger at Wang Yuluan's forehead, a beam of light entered his brain, starting to modify his memory. Just in an instant, Wang Yuluan's expression returned to calmness. He asked in a daze, "Brother Su, where were we just now?" Su Fan replied with a smile. "You mentioned that you wanted to enter the A-tier hall and learn some special skills from me." Wang Yuluan excitedly requested Su Fan to continue teaching him a few moves. Then the two of them enjoyed another hearty meal. Late at night, Su Fan took out a book recording common knowledge of the world. He wrote down what he heard today. The world is more complex than he imagined. Spiritual creator is the first time I've heard of it, but it also makes sense. The spells of the immortal cultivation world don't appear out of thin air. Today, he did not cultivate, just like a salted fish. Anyway, he cultivates hard, but it's useless. The youth possesses the strongest talent in the world. He is determined to become the king of salted fish and reach the highest cultivation level in the world. On this day, Su Fan was lying flat at home, being a salted fish as usual. During his boredom, a giant boat hundreds of meters long flew across the sky towards the direction of the inner sect. Several warships were guarding the surroundings. There are several hundred people riding golden flame birds at the periphery of the warships, patrolling the surrounding airspace. According to Su Fan's calculations, this giant ship, together with the surrounding warships, should have gone out to search for resources. Su Fan looked at the warships in the sky with a fascinated expression. This is a man's dream. Just then, sensing something amiss, Su Fan opened a small door directly. Wang Yuluan hobbled in with a limp. He explained to Su Fan that he was injured while performing a task and needed a few days to recuperate. He came to check on Brother Su, and Su Fan calmly said, "Clearly, I gave you the body lightning spell to use properly. If used well, even the chi-refining 7-layer fiend beast wouldn't be able to hurt you. Are you trying to take on the fiend beast head-on?" Wang Yuluan chuckled and said, "It's because that fiend beast has extremely strong defense. Only the spell given by Brother Su can break through it. In order to deliver a fatal blow to the fiend beast, he chose to confront it head-on." Su Fan looked disdainful and said, "Your talent in battle is simply terrible. Are you unable to fight without securing a quick kill? Concepts like positioning, kiting, and casting spells from a distance have been explained to you before." Wang Yuluan directly gave Su Fan a shoulder massage when they met. "I came here today to seek advice on how to deal with fiend beasts that have high defense and speed." Su Fan questioned why a prospective disciple from the battle hall, who hasn't even stepped out much, is asking him a question. "Do you have an issue with your brain?" Wang Yuluan asked Su Fan to stop joking. "Your talent in attack and slaughter techniques, others may not know, but don't I know it too?" After thinking for a while, Su Fan said, "It's not impossible. You have to tell me the information about that huge boat." Wang Yuluan naturally agreed. Heavenly floating boat, he really knows quite a bit of information. Later, Su Fan waved his index finger, emitting a purple light beam. In an instant, the figures of the two appeared in a pure white world. Wang Yuluan looked around in surprise and said, "Brother Su, your illusory spell is truly amazing. Is this the soul bewitching art? Mastering this kind of technique would probably require the entire chi refining stage to be integrated into it." Su Fan did not deny it. "Indeed, in this space, you can fully unleash your strength with the soul bewitching art. Let's begin the lesson." He immediately transformed into a chi-refining 7-layer petrified mantis. This is the fastest and highest defense fiend beast he can think of at the moment. "I'll give you the time it takes to burn half an incense stick to see if you can kill him. Then I'll tell you about your shortcomings." As soon as Su Fan finished speaking, Petrified Mantis immediately attacked Wang Yuluan. Wang Yuluan responded by using Flame Spear upon seeing the situation. But the Flame Spear was easily avoided by the Mantis. Su Fan was also watching and giving advice while adjusting the speed, but the casting speed of Flame Spear was too slow. Moreover, your spell prediction is simply child's play. Wang Yulin froze for a moment, and was immediately seized by petrified mantis. Beast opened a wound on his body. Su Fan is also ruthless. You dare to be distracted during the battle. Wang Yulin with wounds all over his body in the end. He stood next to Su Fan in shame. Su Fan calmly pointed out the shortcomings. In the previous battle, your overall output was almost 0. You were just passively getting hit. Everyone or every monster has their own movement habits. What you need to do is observe the opponent's habits first, and then block their movement. Just now, that mantis clearly dodged your spell 4 times, but you didn't notice the opponent's movement at all. Wang Yulin also looked ashamed when he heard the words, showing that Brother Su easily spotted the problem. Wang Yulin immediately asked Su Fan for more guidance. Su Fan sighed and said, "Talking more about this won't help. You have to rely on yourself to practice. Come here to train when you have time in the future." Although Su Fan's words seemed mysterious and profound, he was actually feeling very pleased in his heart. He finally had the chance to show off a bit. After Su Fan finished speaking, he continued to relax in the lounge chair. Next, let's talk about the matter of the giant ship. Would you be willing to attend her classes every day when such a beautiful and charming senior sister is your instructor? At this time, in Su Fan's yard, the two of them are pretending to be couch potatoes. Wang Yulin mentioned the matter of the giant boat. That giant boat is called the Heavenly Floating Boat. 5,000 years ago, our sect's Grand Elder took all the sect's belongings to the central continent to commission the celestial artifact sect for refining. For this heavenly floating boat, the sect did not recruit any new disciples for a full 50 years. The entire sect tightened their belts and lived frugally. Disciples from that time were not allowed to see spiritual stones. If they saw one, their eyes would turn red. The sect did not turn their fortunes until the heavenly floating boat was completed. Later on, we finally upgraded to a first-class sect. Su Fan asked in confusion, "Why did we have to buy this thing back then? What's the use of it? For fighting or searching for resources?" Wang Yulin replied, "Of course, it's for finding resources." In the Featherwing realm, half of the area is ocean, collectively known as the Endless Ocean. It is said to be boundless, with far more abundant resources than other areas. Most importantly, the deep sea of the Endless Ocean contains resources that are not found on many continents. However, the Endless Ocean is fraught with danger. Even the mighty tribulation dares not journey alone into it. So if you want to go to the Endless Ocean to search for resources, you must have this heavenly floating boat, because the depths of the Endless Ocean are all void refining stage and above fiend beasts. Only this heavenly floating boat can withstand the attacks of large numbers of high-level fiend beasts. Otherwise, senior members of the heaven-gazing sect at the nascent soul stage and above would not have been able to sustain themselves with resources from the mainland for so long. Moreover, this is just one aspect. The most important thing is that the heavenly floating boat can not only go to the Endless Ocean, but also, I heard, even to the legendary domain of extreme sky. Su Fan looked up at the sky and thought, "Isn't that damn universe?" Wang Yulin continued, "However, only those top-level sects dare to go to the domain of extreme sky. We are just hanging around in the depths of the Endless Ocean." As Wang Yulin's story unfolded, Su Fan slowly understood the importance of this heavenly floating boat. He suddenly asked Wang Yulin if there was a way to board the heavenly floating boat. Wang Yulin immediately stretched out 4 fingers to indicate that there were 4 types of professions that could board the heavenly floating boat. One major responsibility is for cultivators, who specialize in the detection spell to steer the heavenly floating boat. But Battle Hall's combat personnel generally consist of senior members from the A-tier hall. 3. Dan Alchemist and Artifact Refiner are responsible for the initial processing of materials. 4 is the Void Refining stage in the center, generally occupied by Integration stage cultivators. Brother Su's desire to go is simple. By participating in the A-tier hall of the Battle Hall and advancing to the Golden Core stage, he can then enter. Other professions may not be suitable for you at the moment. Su Fan sighed, realizing he would have to live steadily until the age of 250 to reach the golden core stage, which made him feel quite sad. And as for being a third-grade or higher Dan refiner or artifact refiner, he is still a poor man now. It's better to take it slow. Wang Yuluan suggested at this time. Brother Su, are you really not going to Battle Hall? It's evident that he really wants Su Fan to go. Su Fan, a man determined to become the king of survival, naturally will not go. He is very interested in refining the heavenly floating boat. He plans to learn artifact refining after mastering Dan refining. However, Wang Yuluan expressed doubts, saying that Brother Su's wealth might not be enough. With just these spiritual rice, it can only cover the tuition fee for one course of Dan refining. Su Fan laughed and said, You don't have to worry about that. But where did you learn to speak so bluntly? The next day, Su Fan came to the peak of Grand Learning, the location of the spiritual Dan Pavilion, with great excitement. He is determined to study hard and strive, aiming to return to Earth as soon as possible. His eyes are becoming more and more resolute. He immediately went to Dan Medicine Hall and applied to become a disciple of the spiritual Dan Pavilion to learn the method of Dan refining. The disciple also mentioned that the registration fee and tuition fee are 500 spiritual stones plus 100 contribution points. This is the tuition fee for 1 year of study. The total duration of study is 2 years, and you can have a day off in the middle and at the end of each month. After you become an entry-level Dan alchemist, you can join Dan Medicine Hall. Su Fan, although feeling distressed, still obediently handed over the registration fee. He then followed this person inside. What came into view was a magnificent tower building. This made Su Fan unable to help but be surprised. When Dan Medicine Hall's disciples saw this, he immediately concluded that Su Fan was just a bumpkin. He immediately looked disdainful as he handed the token to Su Fan. Su Fan, however, was not bothered and still warmly thanked him. Once Su Fan stepped into the classroom, a woman with exquisite and beautiful features and a graceful figure walked towards him. The woman asked, Hello, junior brother Su Fan. Are you a new disciple here to study? Su Fan's eyes couldn't contain his joy in that instant. Is this the legendary senior sister? Su Fan blushed and smiled. Yes, I'm Su Fan. How should I address you, senior sister? The woman also smiled slightly and said, I am Sha Swallow, a trainee instructor here. If Shifu is not around, I usually give the lectures. Su Fan suddenly thought of the word dumbass for some reason. Seeing Su Fan being distracted, Sha Swallow also looked puzzled. Su Fan scratched his head and casually asked a question. What should I do about the classes I missed before? Sha Swallow smiled like a crescent moon upon hearing this. This little issue, the early classes were all foundation courses. I have the materials here. Just come to me in the afternoon, and I will help you catch up individually. Saying that, she took out a jade slip from her chest. All right, it's time for the lesson. Little junior brother, you must listen carefully. Su Fan was instantly enthralled by this adorable expression, feeling a sense of familiarity with the plot. That way, he learned about the night. He saw Sha Swallow's charming and glamorous appearance. Su Fan's face turned red in embarrassment, and her nose began to bleed profusely. Sha Swallow seemed to have not noticed these, and continued with her teaching process. At this time, Su Fan became even more excited. With a beautiful senior sister accompanying him on the journey of learning Dan refining, he felt incredibly cool. He is about to officially embark on the road to wealth through Dan refining. If such a lovely girl wants to marry you, would you agree on the spot? But Su Fan has always been rejecting the girl's kindness. After studying Dan refining for a month, Su Fan began his first Dan refining in the Dan refining room he had built on his mountain top. As a spiritual stone was thrown into the fire pit, the fierce flames roared up under the Dan furnace as he unleashed fire-controlling arts and spirit-controlling arts. In this way, he continued to operate for a while. The spiritual herb essence began to differentiate into several liquid droplets. Just as he marveled at how Dan refining was not difficult, With a loud bang, the furnace exploded. Su Fan never thought that even a natural talent like himself would end up exploding the furnace. Don't let the Dan refining furnace get into trouble. It's very expensive. He immediately checked the Dan refining furnace. Finally, he found a small crack near the fire pit, which made Su Fan instantly heartbroken. Thinking back to what the disciple who sold the Dan furnace said, this level of Dan refining furnace can generally withstand a maximum of 10 explosions. Senior brother, please take care. In the world of Dan refining, there is a saying, 20 furnaces produce Dan, 50 furnaces create Dan, 100 furnaces form a teacher, and 1,000 furnaces make a grandmaster. Indeed, Dan refining has nothing to do with being poor. Su Fan tidied up a bit, then opened another furnace. He refused to believe that with his exceptional talent, he would not succeed. As the sound of the explosion came again, Su Fan has already blown up the furnace for the third time. After the fourth attempt, he finally succeeded in refining the Dan. Then, he carefully calculated that with the current success rate, after deducting the cost, he could earn around 17.5 spiritual stones from one furnace, which is nearly a 600% profit. This is much more promising than earning only 700 spiritual stones a year by taking on tasks. He quickly took advantage of his good feeling and made a few more furnaces. The next day, Su Fan's energetic appearance in the classroom. Sha Swallow accompanying a middle-aged cultivator. Everyone has been waiting in the classroom. The middle-aged cultivator is Su Fan's main teacher, a Foundation Establishment Pinnacle cultivator named Sha Skyview, who is also a Dan alchemist named Sha Skyview, also known as Sha Swallow. Sha Skyview's father, Sha Skyview, then spoke up and said, "Did you succeed in refining the fasting Dan I asked you to make yesterday?" Su Fan, following his principle of humility, remained silent. He looked around and noticed that all the disciples had a solemn expression on their faces. At this moment, Sha Skyview smiled and said, "The feeling of being exploded by furnace must be uncomfortable. It wouldn't be surprising if those disciples who were eager to succeed yesterday had their furnaces blown up." The disciples below the stage all complained, with some even having 2 Dan furnaces exploded. Some of them said they almost lost their lives. Su Fan was puzzled by the fact that it seemed like Sha Skyview was staring at him. Sha Skyview only saw Sha Skyview lifting the sound insulation cover and asking about Su Fan, the disciple. "Do you know him?" Sha Swallow replied that he is just an ordinary outer disciple with a bit of spiritual point talent, very average and low-key. Sha Skyview, however, said that this individual is not simple. Just now, he smelled the fragrance of fasting Dan on Su Fan, which means that among all the disciples in the class, only he has successfully refined it to a quality level that is not considered low. He then asked Sha Swallow to pay more attention to this person. Upon hearing this, Sha Swallow looked puzzled. Sha Skyview did not say much, but only indicated that this individual might be a genius. If confirmed, you will have one more junior brother. Su Fan returned to his own small mountain peak and was ready to continue refining the Dan pill. Just then, not far from Su Fan's location, came the sound of woodcutting and construction on the neighboring peak. Su Fan went out to take a look and found that the new disciple had chosen such a remote mountain peak. "I want to keep a low profile, but what is this fellow up to?" Just as Su Fan had just opened the restriction and was thinking about whether to go visit, a figure flew over from the opposite mountain peak. Su Fan suddenly had a bad premonition. Just a glimpse of a beautiful figure, it was Zhang Feng Cloud who immediately rushed into Su Fan's arms. With a bang, Su Fan was instantly hit, spitting out blood from his mouth. He asked with a cold sweat streaming down his face, "Feng Cloud, why are you here?" Zhang Feng Cloud happily replied, "Husband, I have advanced to the Qi refining for a layer just to see you." She said this in front of Su Fan. She spun around like a flower-fluttering butterfly. Su Fan couldn't help but blush. "Are you showing off your cultivation level? Although your little skirt is very pretty." After Zhang Feng Cloud displayed, he hugged Su Fan and she mentioned that she was noticed by an elder, saying she has a certain spiritual body and wanted to take her into the inner, but she refused. Being embraced like this, Su Fan, an old single man from 2 lifetimes, could only blush. Later, Zhang Feng Cloud brought up, "When are you going to send me the betrothal gifts?" Su Fan was speechless at once. He quickly changed the subject. "You probably haven't eaten yet. Let me cook for you." At this time, the skilled cook, Master Su, took the stage again. A table of delicious food paired with the special spiritual rice gradually made Zhang Feng Cloud excited, saying, "My husband treats me so well." Su Fan, seeing the situation, wanted to explain that it was just a joke at first. He had always treated the other person as a younger sister. He further advised, "Choosing a husband is an important matter for a girl. You can't be careless. I'm definitely not suitable to be your husband." Who would have known that just a second ago, Zhang Feng Cloud was happily eating his meal. Upon hearing these words, she burst into tears instantly. "My husband doesn't want me anymore." Su Fan was greatly devastated. He felt inexplicably transformed into a scumbag. An hour passed like this, with Zhang Feng Cloud still crying while Su Fan stood by, at a loss, comforting him. 2 hours later. The scene remains the same. Until 3 hours later, Su Fan was already desperate, and quickly expressed, "Don't leave me." Zhang Feng Cloud calmed down a bit and asked, "Am I your wife?" Su Fan hesitated for a moment, then started crying again. Unable to bear it any longer, Su Fan could only agree to give Uncle Zhang the betrothal gifts. In just a moment, Zhang Feng Cloud started happily eating as if nothing had happened. Su Fan's face immediately turned black. He was actually tricked. Zhang Feng Cloud, on the other hand, claimed to be sincere without any tricks. She immediately put on a pitiful appearance. Su Fan's face turned slightly red again. He could only stop for now and maintain this state first. The little wife's master turned out to be a stunning beauty as well. How can Su Fan, this 2-time old house hermit, tolerate this? Just when Su Fan and his wife were being lovey-dovey, a mystic azure divine bird appeared in the sky. On the back of the divine bird stood a beautiful lady in a long dress of mystic azure color. Her black hair was 3,000 feet long, and she was exceptionally stunning. Su Fan, upon seeing this, thought that the lady was looking for him. The Su Fan who was initially slouching in the chair instantly became spirited. Could it be that as someone with a system, I am destined for greatness? In an instant, a blush-inducing scene involving Su Fan and the lady flashed through his mind. Just at this moment, a faint voice echoed throughout the entire outer mountains, welcoming the mystic azure venerable to the heaven-gazing sect. "I wonder what brings the venerable here," Mystic Azure said coldly. "I came to find my disciple." The sect leader couldn't help but wonder, "How could my heaven-gazing sect have your disciple?" Su Fan thought to himself, "Isn't he here to take me as his disciple?" However, the next moment, Mystic Azure kindly said to Zhang Feng Cloud, "How about the little girl becoming the eldest disciple under my sect, Heaven's Grace Spiritual Body?" As she spoke, she raised a blue orchid flower carrying the dumbfounded Zhang Feng Cloud, who was still watching the scene while eating melon, flying towards her. At this moment, a middle-aged man in white robes appeared. He looked somewhat helpless as he said, "Could it be that the esteemed Mystic Azure Venerable is here to poach people from my heaven-gazing sect? While Heaven's Grace Spiritual Body is indeed talented, it's not to the extent of being valued so greatly by the Venerable." The Mystic Azure Venerable threatened, "She has a connection with me. Consider it a favor owed by Mystic Azure to your heaven-gazing sect." The middle-aged man instantly felt as if a huge mountain was pressing down on him. The Mystic Azure Venerable turned to look at Zhang Feng Cloud. "Would you like to be my chief disciple? I happen to have a set of Heaven's Grace Spiritual Body cultivation technique that suits you. Your ascension to the celestial realm is only a matter of time." Zhang Feng Cloud looked silly and said, "I don't know." She then turned her head and asked, "Husband Su Fan, what should I do?" Suddenly, Su Fan became the brightest one in the audience, with several spiritual senses fixed on him. Although Su Fan was very flustered, he managed to stay calm. But why does a certain spiritual sense still carry a fragrance? Which beauty is paying attention to him? Su Fan then looked seriously at Zhang Fengcloud. This is your opportunity. I feel like you should agree to her. However, he was thinking to himself, with so many big shots watching, how can I dare to disagree? But he comforted himself. I have a system, and in the future, I will definitely be stronger than all of you. In the future, you will all be younger brothers. Upon hearing this, Zhang Fengcloud asked, The mystic Azure Venerable, will I still have the opportunity to see my husband in the future? The mystic Azure Venerable nodded in agreement. She practiced the path of heartlessness, and she would not interfere randomly in the future path of her disciple. Moreover, the heaven's grace spiritual body is born to bear great fortunes. Her husband in the future will also be extraordinary. Zhang Fengcloud immediately bowed in salute. Then I am willing to become a disciple of the Venerable. The middle-aged man also congratulated before quickly disappearing. Mystic Azure also departed with Zhang Fengcloud. Su Fan sighed. Just like that, my newly recognized daughter-in-law is gone. Well, at least I won't feel awkward refusing anyone in the future. Later, Su Fan once again got up like a salted fish. There are so many big shots in this world. How long do I have to struggle before I can enjoy life? In his boredom, Su Fan took out the jade slip containing the 5 elements arts cultivation technique and started reading. He had always wanted to create an enhanced version of the 5 elements arts. Suddenly, the alarm rang, so he opened the restriction. Only to see the fierce Wang Yulun walked in, Su Fan was immediately surprised. Kid, you have been in the primitive forest for a month? Wang Yulun chuckled and said, I just returned today. I have already killed 8 sects, and the last 2 specific fiend beasts given were too difficult. I came back to rest. Su Fan looked Wang Yulun up and down and said, It seems like you have been through a lot this past month. Thinking of the experiences of the past month, Wang Yulun couldn't help but shiver with cold. He had been teetering on the edge of life and death all month, almost not making it back. Then the two of them lay flat like salted fish and began to chat. Wang Yulun said that he came back this time to see Brother Su and also to seek advice on how to deal with my last 2 fiend beasts. Talk about the characteristics of those 2 fiend beasts. After speaking, Su Fan waved his hand. The tea set automatically poured tea for them. Wang Yulun then said, One is the earth-devouring fiend beast with extraordinary defense and the earth-shifting talent. Once it senses a life-threatening danger, it will burrow into the ground. There is also one called Crimson Wind Blood Cat, extremely fast in speed. Its movement habits are unpredictable, and I couldn't catch it. Its sharp claws left several fatal wounds on my body. If it weren't for this specially prepared defense artifact, I probably wouldn't have seen Brother Su again. Brother Su, what would you do if you were to deal with these 2 fiend beasts? Su Fan could only look at him helplessly. Yet again, failing the exam and coming to me, his teacher, as a substitute test taker for you. You should know my wife was just taken away by someone, and I haven't calmed down yet, and now you come to me for classes. In that case, look at this lesson I'll give you. Su Fan immediately claimed to have a secret technique. Once you have mastered the chi refining stage, dealing with fiend beasts won't be a problem. Plus, it only requires 1 move and is very easy to learn. Wang Yulun's eyes lit up at once, saying, Brother Su, please teach me quickly. Su Fan then gestured with his hand and tapped Wang Yulun's forehead. He also mentioned that this secret technique was invented by a bald person in Fusong. I happen to receive his true teachings occasionally, so I will teach it to you. Audience, guess who this bald person is? Then the 2 of them entered the illusion once again to start the teaching. According to Wang Yulun, Su Fan divided the praying mantis into 2, one emphasizing tough defense and the other enhancing mobility and attack power. He then proceeded to give a demonstration himself. With just a casual punch, the tank mantis was easily defeated. Su Fan calmly said, Did you see that? In front of the ultimate punch, any defense is useless. Wang Yulun was shocked. This one punch instantly killed. The next moment, the speedy praying mantis ambushed Wang Yulun. Su Fan still delivered a simple punch, taking down the second praying mantis effortlessly. He continued, saying that as long as the punch is strong enough, even if the enemy only gives a momentary opportunity, it can still make the opponent disappear in an instant. Wang Yulun immediately knelt down to ask for instruction on this move. It's too powerful. Su Fan cleared his throat lightly. It's not a problem for me to teach you, but this secret technique, Cultivate, is quite difficult. I'm afraid you might not be able to learn it. Of course, there is a way to help you improve your Cultivate speed. That would be shaving your head. According to that predecessor's explanation, he became bald and then became stronger. All the audience knows who it is, right? That's right, it's our Saitama. Wang Yulun was unable to make a decision when hearing this. Is there no other way? Su Fan, with an indifferent expression, seems to not care whether you learn or not. Although he did set a trap for the other party, this cultivation technique has no problems. After pondering for a long time, Wang Yulun still decided desperately to learn. Su Fan suddenly smiled with a sinister smile. Since you agreed, let me help you shave. Facing such a stunning senior sister, Su Fan, an old housebound man, doesn't know if he can resist the temptation. At this moment, Su Fan is leveraging some wise words left by a bald person, stating that even if you become bald, you can become stronger. He gave Wang Yulun a lesson, allowing him to take an important step on the path to becoming stronger. At this point, the now bald Wang Yulun suddenly realized, if becoming bald can make one stronger, why didn't Brother Su shave his head? Su Fan replied with a guilty conscience, because I don't want to become stronger. Then he quickly sent Wang Yulun away. Seeing the other person confidently leaving, Su Fan felt a little embarrassed instead. But it doesn't matter anymore. It's good enough to feel relieved on my own. Next, I can start my plan of saving money for artifact refining. He still needs to sign up at the artifact refining peak later. 3 months have passed just like that. At this moment, in a distant holy place, Zhang Faintcloud has just finished his cultivation, and is about to go out for fun riding on the Mystic Azure Divine Bird. She was stopped by the Mystic Azure Venerable. Can she not endure the loneliness after only 3 months of seclusion? You have not yet grasped the basics of the Fortune Spirit Destiny technique. Your combat power is not top-notch in the same level. I can't even take you out to show your face. Mystic Azure thought that she relied on the Heaven's Grace spiritual body in the early stages to slowly rise through a few adventures. Originally, she, who was supposed to become a big shot in the Featherwing realm, had nothing to tie her down. But during a break, she unexpectedly had a nightmare. In the dream, she was being chased by a group of demon race in the Great Thousand Worlds. Furthermore, she ultimately perished tragically under the torment of the demon race. This was her Heaven's Grace spiritual body reminding her. Later, she acquired a secret art that allowed her to resolve her own calamities by accepting a disciple of the Heaven's Grace spiritual body and teaching them diligently. This was also the reason why she accepted Zhang Faintcloud. Zhang Faintcloud then approached, acting coquettishly, saying, "That secret art is too difficult to learn. I'm going out for a stroll. Maybe I'll have a new insight. If I could see my husband, that would be even better." Upon hearing disciple mention Su Fan the Mystic Azure Venerable, a hint of intrigue flashed in his eyes. Those who can become Taoist partners with the Heaven's Grace spiritual body are not simple people. I wonder what kind of brilliance my future disciple's husband will unleash in this realm. Mystic Azure couldn't resist her coquetry and agreed to let her take a stroll. But if you want to meet your husband, you have to fully comprehend the introductory chapter of the Fortune Spirit Destiny technique before discussing further. At this moment, Heaven Gazing Sect's artifact refining peak. Su Fan just opened the classroom door and was dazzled. All those fellow disciples at the artifact refining peak have shaved their heads. Listening to their words, it is indeed the method of enhancement publicized by Wang Yuluan. Su Fan looked helpless. It seems that not only the spiritual Dan Pavilion, but also the artifact refining peak has been affected. This kid Wang Yuluan is quite something. After that, it became popular among the outer disciples of the heaven-gazing sect to shave their heads, known in history as the bald change. Su Fan spent 10,000 spiritual stones, with a heavy heart to purchase a set of entry-level artifact refiner manuals and materials. After taking a glance, he lost interest as the threshold for artifact refining is much higher than Dan refining. Spending over 10,000 spiritual stones, he hasn't even found a teacher for instruction. Shortly after Su Fan returned to the mountaintop, he saw a not very familiar disciple appearing outside the restriction. This chubby one named Pang Fu is known for being extremely wealthy, with a fortune comparable to a country's. Upon seeing Su Fan, Pang Fu warmly called out, "Junior brother Su, I heard you have succeeded in Dan refining, so I came to congratulate you." Saying this, he took out 50 spiritual stones as a gift. However, Su Fan declined, saying, "Thank you, senior brother Pang Fu, for your kind intention. I accept the spiritual stones, but you can take them back." However, Pang Fu insisted on giving them to Su Fan, expressing that in the outer regions, they are both independent freelance cultivators, and every spiritual stone should be used in the most critical areas. Su Fan thought to himself that during the early qi refining stage, there were not many people he studied with that he could remember, and the person in front of him was one of them. He never thought that this chubby person turned out to be quite generous. He then invited the other party in for a chat. After sitting down, Pang Fu also stated the purpose of this. He wanted to unite the outer disciples who were without support, to exchange their unused resources, share information, or even issue small tasks, at least providing these outer disciples with an additional option. Su Fan jokingly said, "Senior brother Pang Fu is not without support. He is the wealthiest merchant in the Chuyang kingdom, which is more impressive than an ordinary immortal cultivation family." Pang Fu's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. "Junior brother Su, how do you know my identity?" In fact, when Su Fan just crossed over, he had received help from this family during his early days of begging, so he paid more attention to Pang Fu. Su Fan jokingly said, "I was fortunate to have seen young Master Pang's style when I first entered. Let's get to the point first. Senior brother Pang Fu, do you want to form an alliance?" Pang Fu patiently said, "I dare not claim to form an alliance. I just want to gather more than 1,000 brothers from our same group together. It's always better to have a group than to struggle alone." Su Fan became interested upon hearing this. "It sounds intriguing. What can this alliance bring me? What do I need to contribute?" Pang Fu explained passionately. "First of all, you can always get first-hand information within the sect. Next, there are countless willing alliances and connections. Senior and junior brothers running errands for the future Dan refining master. While junior brother Su's reputation as a Dan refining genius resounds throughout the spiritual Dan pavilion. What you need to do is to provide some convenience in Dan refining for senior and junior brothers within the alliance. There are more than 40 senior and junior brothers prepared in the alliance to join the battle hall. There are 2 apprentice artifact refining students who are likely to become basic Dan alchemists. With the addition of this upcoming Dan alchemist junior brother, I believe our alliance will definitely develop in the future." Su Fan pondered for a moment. He still decided to agree to join. Being too low-key feels like suppressing one's true nature. Pang Fu was delighted at the mention, and took out a simple round artifact. He explained, "Alliances should look like an alliance. This is a work by one of the artifact refining apprentices. This artifact receives the latest news and trade information from the alliance every day, and occasionally there are tasks issued by disciples." Then Pang Fu took out a jade slip and handed it to Su Fan. "This is the alliance's jade slip. You should take it as well," he said. After finishing everything, Pang Fu bid farewell and left. At this time, Sha Swallow appeared behind Su Fan. "Junior brother Su, Has the guest just left? Su Fan was suddenly blown red in the face by the other party's attitude. Yes, a senior brother came to visit. Shaw Swallow laughed and said, Junior brother, why are you reacting so strongly to me? Won't you invite me in for a sit? When she entered the room, Shaw Swallow seemed a little absent-minded. Ever since her father asked her to pay attention to this boy, she unknowingly found the other person more pleasing to the eye. Shaw Swallow quickly shook her head to shake off this unrealistic idea. She was seen to slap the table and stand up. She stared at Su Fan earnestly and asked, Junior brother, why were you unwilling to join my spiritual herb hall before? Su Fan, the old homebody, blushed at her gesture. He faced the tempting invitation from the senior sister of the great European school. Su Fan, this two-life single dog, resolutely rejected the other party. In Su Fan's pavilion, Shaw Swallow is pressing Su Fan. Why are you unwilling to worship my father as your master? It turns out Shaw Swallow's father has recognized Su Fan's talent in Dan refining and wants to take him as a disciple, so he let Shaw Swallow feel out Su Fan's attitude. She never expected to be rejected by Su Fan. Looking at the stunning senior sister, Su Fan said, It's not that I have no interest in Dan refining. I only learned it to make money to support my artifact refining. Su Fan helplessly said, Senior sister, I am used to being carefree and independent. I don't want to be constrained. Dan refining is just my side job. Shaw Swallow looked at Su Fan in incomprehension. But little junior brother, your talent in Dan refining is outstanding. Without proper guidance, wouldn't your talent go to waste? The path of Dan refining is vast like the sea. It is also a way to ascend to immortality. As long as you become a top Dan refining master, being extradited to the celestial realm is not a problem. Su Fan looked a bit headache at this beautiful senior sister. It seems that he must speak some truths. Su Fan suddenly asked senior sister, Have you ever been on the heavenly floating boat of our sect? Shaw Swallow said in confusion, Yes, I've been there. I went on a trip with the heavenly floating boat. What's the matter? Su Fan said with admiration, Every time I see the heavenly floating boat, I pledge to refine the heavenly floating boat Dan refining in this lifetime. It's just that collecting spiritual stones is one of my early methods. The reason I don't want to worship Skyview Teacher as my teacher is because I'm afraid of letting Skyview Teacher down in the future. At this moment, Shaw Swallow was stunned. This reminds her of her older brother, who had a falling out with their father at the artifact refining peak. The parting words of her brother still remained vivid in her mind. I, Shaw Idiot, will become the top artifact refining master of heaven-gazing sect. Shaw Swallow sighed. Isn't alchemy enjoyable enough? Why must you become a weapon craftsman? With things coming to this point, Shaw Swallow stopped saying more and left directly. Watching senior sister's departing figure, Su Fan sighed. Senior sister, freedom is priceless. And there's still a 150-year limit for the chi refining stage. No one can withstand it. I have to do something I like. At this moment, Su Fan's waist started to tremble. It is Pang Fu who sent the circular communication artifact with 6 messages displayed on it for you to check. Upon returning to the room and opening it, he found all 6 of them to be headline news from within the sect. Among them, the second one contained information about the top beauty in the outer sect forming a Taoist partnership with an A-tier hall disciple,